Hey everybody, welcome back to The Beard and the Bald. I am Paul Shirey the Beard, joined by my compatriot, the Bald, Christopher Bumbray.
Well, hello.
Hi. Well, hello.
Hi, friend.
We have some big topics to discuss this week. A lot of shit to discuss. So I reached out to our guest from last week, Mr. Zaki Hasan, and asked him if he would like to return, and he has gratefully accepted. Zaki, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
2 weeks in a row. I can't believe it.
I think it's the only time we've ever had a guest on 2 weks in a row.
I know. I think it is. It is.
We probably would have had Jay Baruchel on 2 weeks in a row, but he's too busy.
Well, he didn't return my message, so.
There's a shorter gap between my appearances on your show than episodes of my own show. So
wow,
it's a little data point for you.
Speaking of guests, I'm working on getting us a special guest for next week. We'll see if it happens or not.
And it is a special guest.
Yeah, exactly. But,
I don't think anybody will be able to guess it.
No, I mean, you know, it's somebody who, if I get, will be pretty fun. But hey, what have you guys been up to last week? I haven't seen Captain Marvel yet. I'm seeing it this week. But Zaki, have you seen it yet?
I'm seeing it on Monday.
Yeah, you see, they're doing the screenings in Montreal as well on Tuesday morning.
Oh, okay.
I may or may not be going to, but at the latest, I'll be seeing it on Thursday, I guess. But yeah, it's the same kind of thing. Like we're getting a bit of a delayed entry to it. But I tried to get Jimmy O on today to talk about it, but his schedule sucks. When does the embargo break?
It's Tuesday morning at like 6 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah, that's why they didn't give us an embargo. That was why they were like, you can post them right away because our screening, I guess, will be right after the embargo breaks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Jimmy O, he said it was fine. He didn't love it.
Yeah.
He said it was good. But it's not like top tier. Like, oh my god, this is so great. He's like, it's enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
So I was gonna have him on. He also did.
Yeah, because by the time this airs, the embargo will have been broken.
Yeah. Well, y'all go decide for yourselves. I'm gonna see it, but I'm not seeing it opening weekend. Really, not.
Matt, you should try to see it opening weekend though, because the thing is, then you and I can talk about it on the podcast.
Right. But here's the thing. But this is why it's not anything against the film. It's that my girlfriend will be in town, and I'm gonna be busy doing other things than going to the movies.
Oh my god, you're prioritizing sex with your girlfriend over going to see a Marvel movie.
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good excuse.
And that is legit the truth. My birthday is actually on the 6th.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. And we're gonna have like a party. You got all this other stuff going on, and then I have this week.
I didn't get my invite.
Dude, you and Zach, you're invited. Y'all fucking, I don't know how you're gonna get here, but please show up. It's gonna be a tiki birthday party, obviously. So,
and you're going to see us getting an early sneak peek at a particular movie soon. I guess you can't really talk about it.
Yeah, we can say because I mean, by the time this goes up, it won't matter. I'm going to see Shazam on the 5th.
Nice.
Flying to LA, and I'm taking my son, so he's going to see it as well. And I'm pretty pumped. I've been excited for the movie since I visited the set, and it just looks like fun. It just, people kind of tend to treat fun as a 4-letter word these days. Like it's almost as if, oh, fun, that's just an excuse that it's not great. And I'm like, well, that's not true at all. I just think it looks fun, like funny and cool, and it just got like all those elements. So I'm just hoping it lives up to that hype. I'm obviously not pre-sold. Not pre-sold on any movie. But I'm excited. Like I'm really looking forward to it. And
I don't know. It looks like a kid's movie to me. That's the thing. And it's like, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just, I find it hard to motivate myself to go see, a movie with children protagonists. I mean, there have been some great ones, but it's just, I'm not a kid anymore. And I find it really strange that, so many of these big directors and stuff like Joe Cornish even, will make these movies about like 10-year-olds and they're trying to kind of recapture this Amblin aesthetic, I guess, that they kind of fetishize from when they were younger, and often it backfires, right? I mean, I think it worked for Super 8, and I've heard that The Kid Who Would Be King was good, but it tanked. The thing is, these 10-year-olds,
who could have predicted that?
They're not going to go see a movie. They're not going to go see a movie like that. They have no interest. It's like that's I don't know.
Well, think about the competition as superheroes. But here's the other. for kids though, like when you were a kid, you know, and Goonies came out, you could argue that Goonies wouldn't have been made for you today. So, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with people continuing to make those kinds of movies or attempting to for, you know, the younger audience. I think that's great.
You have to have a good, you know, for me, like I appreciated it because it to me felt like almost like a mashup of Stand By Me and you know, the Goonies.
Pretty standard Stephen King fare, really.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think it's going to be good. Plus, you have, you know, Zachary Levi's the star, and you know it's like big. It's big with superpowers.
I actually got an early look at a movie too. Last night, I got to see The Dirt, the Motley Crue biopic from Netflix,
which I'm very
quite early, actually. Yeah.
Who did they put it in your account?
They did. They put it in my account very randomly, actually, because there was some talk about me potentially interviewing somebody from it, and like one of the not the junket, because Jimmy's doing the junket, but it was somebody else who's not on the junket. And before it even got confirmed, it suddenly showed up in my account. So I'm assuming that it's confirmed because it's such an early look at it. And then obviously I can't say because it's embargoed until actually opening day, which is a surprise. But I guess that they're worried there's going to be some kind of backlash against it. That said, you know, I read the book that was based on, The Dirt, you know, that they co-wrote with Neil Strauss, the guy who wrote The Game. Right. And I mean, I think it's a really good adaptation of the book, to be honest. Like, if you liked the book, you'll like the movie. If you thought the book was disgusting, you'll think the movie's disgusting. It's just that's how it is. I mean, I think they did a pretty, you know, a lot of the things, you know, the book is still kind of fresh in my mind, and a lot of the episodes from the book make their way directly into the movie. The way the book was done with like the changing, where part of it is narrated by, like, it switches a narration between the band members. You know,
that's cool. I didn't know that.
Do that in the movie. They kind of, a lot of the most like infamous scenes from the book, like the first scene in the book, if anybody's read the book knows exactly what I'm talking about, is done pretty accurately, which is pretty crazy. And the whole encounter with Ozzy Osbourne as well is also done pretty accurately. Lines of dialogue, passages of dialogue from the book that I remember very specifically also show up in the film. And, you know, I mean, it gave me a new appreciation for Motley Crue. You know, I mean, I like the music, and I always thought they were a fun band, and they seem like fun guys. I mean, it doesn't sugarcoat them in any way. Like, they treated women like shit, you know, but they're all groupies and stuff. And but they're not, I don't think there was any real malice to them. And they were also kind of caught up in the time. I think that's what it was, you know, back then, that whole scene. And the movie tries to take like a non-judgmental look at that, and I'm curious to see though what people will think, though, being like so kind of like a PC culture that we're in. Like, I'm wondering how it's going to go down. But for what it's worth, I mean, I watched it with my girlfriend last night, who's pretty, you know, she had just gotten into a fight at work earlier in the day over, like, some guy said something sexist, and so she's pretty, you know, she'll go to bat for something like that, and she loved it. She thought it was great. So she thought it was actually hilarious. She probably liked it even more than I did, to be honest. So we both had a really good time watching it. So,
well, I look forward to it.
I can't really review it, I guess, until, I don't know why, though. I mean, I really liked it. They should let me run my review. I guess they won't let
those
me
quotes.
I guess they won't let me run it, though, because then everybody else will get to run it. But I really had a good time with it. But the one I'm really looking forward to, I'm supposed to get this week, which is Triple Frontier.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really psyched. I know that it's showing to the junketeers tomorrow, so I think Eric must be seeing it tomorrow. But I'm really psyched to see that one, because I love that director, J.C. Shander, and I think I have a feeling it's going to be really good. I hope so, anyway.
He is really good. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
Zaki, did you see anything special this week? Any new peaks?
I've been mainlining Into the Spider-Verse since it became available.
Oh, so good,
dude! I watched it every night since I bought it.
Really?
Every night.
Fantastic.
And that's exceptionally rare for me.
Have you really watched it every night since you bought it? Really?
Yeah, since Monday? Well, Monday night, because Monday night is when like 8 p.m. Alaska time is when all the new releases go up. So I started watching it since Monday night.
If we don't go out tonight, actually, I'm probably gonna at least rent it.
It's just so satisfying. I don't know. It's like just in every way. Like I love it. It's just so good.
Yeah.
It probably is my favorite Spider-Man movie at this point.
It's easily my favorite.
Yeah, at first I was like, well, I don't know, with the Raimis, blah, blah, blah. But I think at this point it
Oh, it's like
sober,
at least top 5 superhero movies, period, for me, I think.
That's pretty great.
I mean, I think, and what else was I going to say? I did see something yesterday I wanted to mention really quickly, though. There's this new documentary that's out, Apollo 11, that played at
I need to
Sundance
watch that.
that I missed. Yeah, and it's getting like a very limited release because it's going out on IMAX screens, and I saw it on IMAX yesterday. And this movie, man, I'm telling you, it is an amazing sight, like amazing thing to kind of behold if you see it on an IMAX screen. Because what happened was in 1969, apparently, this is what I gleaned from doing research on it because I was wondering where the fuck they got the footage from. There was NASA had been planning to do a 70 millimeter docudrama with MGM, right? So they shot all this amazing 70 millimeter footage of like the launch and all kinds of stuff, right? And the project never ended up happening. And it all got kind of shuffled into this documentary called Moonwalk 1 that came out in the early 70s that didn't really go anywhere. But there was hours and hours and hours of this amazing 70 millimeter footage sitting around. And then NASA gave the director of this, Todd something or other, I forget, I'm sorry. But he got to go into the archive, the 70 millimeter archive, and he put together this amazing documentary with this crystal clear footage of all like the launch and the lead up to the launch and then footage from space and them landing, and it's like watching it like it's like a Nolan movie almost because it's got that crisp
Does it have a pounding Hans Zimmer score?
It does. It has a score actually by this guy named Matt Morton, which I think is probably the best score that I've heard of the year so far. I mean, it's still pretty early in the year, but it's actually an amazing,
quite an endorsement
score. And it's kind of, I don't know, man. It was like, it felt almost like what First Man would have been if Christopher Nolan had done it, and it had only been about the launch and nothing else.
And Ryan Gosling made more than one face.
Yeah. But yeah, it was kind of like First Man. But it's really like if it's playing in IMAX in your neighborhood and you want to go see just it's almost like an art film. There's no narration or anything like that. It's just a slice of life, what it was like at the moment. And, and there's all kinds of stuff in there too that I didn't know about. Like I didn't realize that Chappaquiddick, the whole Ted Kennedy thing was going on at the same time as the launch. So like you have scenes of like the technicians, they got a TV in the control room and they're watching the Chappaquiddick coverage and they're like, and you just hear them on like the walkies picking up like, hey, you see what's going on with Ted Kennedy? Jesus. It's kind of fascinating. Crazy. It was a really cool doc. I highly recommend it to anybody who wants to see it.
I told you, are you going to review it?
I asked you never got back to me.
I thought I said you could.
Yeah, you never.
Whatever.
All right, well, I'll post it. I'll post it for Monday.
That's fine. So speaking of movies coming to the theaters, which is kind of what we always talk about, there are a couple new trailers this week. First was a little movie called Hellboy, which is the new iteration with my brain just broke.
David Harbour.
God damn. Whew. Wake up.
And Ian McShane and Mila Jovovich and Sasha.
I was only on the set, no problem. Can't remember any names. So this was the second trailer. The first trailer didn't really go over so well, and I think they went into panic mode a little bit to like, oh shit, we got to get something out that's going to get people hyped. So they did a Red Band trailer for the film, which... Oh,
I think it's going to flop though.
I agree.
I hate to agree with you though.
Yeah,
but I think you're right. But I don't want you to be right. And the reason being is because like watching the trailer, I'm like, okay, there's some cool stuff in here. But it just felt all over the place. Yeah. Like it did not feel like Del Toro's movies. I felt like they had a continuous through line. They had a theme. There were boundaries. You know what I'm saying? Like there were boundaries to the comedy. There were boundaries to the look, the style, everything. This one just feels all over the place. It's like it goes from like, oh, this is going to be like dark and gritty. And then it goes, oh, no, it's like straight up like goofball comedy shit. And then it's like, oh, it's cool visuals. And now it's, oh, another like really silly joke that doesn't quite work. It just doesn't feel like it's just coming together.
It looks to me like I wrote this on Twitter. It looks like one of those Screen Gems 2000 era movies.
Yeah.
You know, like a Resident Evil or like an Underworld or something like that. Like
Or
I'm sure it'll
like,
be okay,
even like I Frankenstein or something like.
Yeah,
something
or Ultraviolet. You know, just,
I think it's kind of like the Millennium Films curse, man. I don't know, like.
Yeah, I know it's true. The Millennium Films, they really have not been able to pull anything. I hate to say it, but like Neil Marshall as a director, amazing job on Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But I mean, his movies, besides The Descent, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember Dog Soldiers. I never made it through the first half hour when I watched it originally. Everybody was telling me how amazing it was. And
it's really fun, but it's cheesy, but it's fun. I actually quite like Doomsday. It's a really silly movie. I've never
seen Doomsday, but I heard that Doomsday was really fun. But Centurion wasn't great.
I liked Centurion though. I had fun with Centurion. Fuck you, Chris.
Well, fine.
I'd
like to see it work out, but it's just, the thing is, you're going from Guillermo del Toro to Neil Marshall, and it's just
Guillermo. Who is that?
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro to Neil Marshall. But I mean, it's just you're going from an A-level director to a B-level director. I mean, no disrespect to Neil Marshall, but it's just a fact, and it's it's also, I'm sure the budget is much lower. And
the other thoughts that I had was, number one, they're redoing. I mean, because it is a reboot, so they're redoing a lot of the same beats that the first one did, and to me that's always a problem, because like to some extent Del Toro did like the best version of Hellboy's origin, so this is like it'll be lesser by its existence. And the other
now you can say fuck though.
That's true,
and I don't know why people get so excited about that.
They're like, I know, it's like a bunch of little kids like, he said F word.
Yeah,
it's like my kid getting excited over that shit.
The other thing, and this is not his fault, is David Harbour, who I really like, looks like he's cosplaying as Ron Perlman's Hellboy.
Yes, that's a really good point.
I have to tell you, when I was on set and I first heard him talk for one of the scenes they were shooting there, I was like, oh my God, he sounds exactly like Ron Perlman.
Yeah, he's doing Ron Perlman. That's the thing. He's doing Ron Perlman, which is so strange.
Yeah.
Well, it's
kind of
got
that fault, because he got that drag in his voice, Like that deep, and that drag that Perlman has. So yeah, I didn't know if I was like, does Harbour really sound? I had trouble because I was like, is he doing Ron Perlman, or is that really how David Harbour is he does have a deep, boasting, kind of loud voice.
Yeah.
When he's excitable, but it does feel like it's very much like a Perlman thing. So
I just, I feel like I wish we had gotten the third movie by Guillermo del Toro and Ron Perlman, and it's kind of a tragedy they weren't able to round out their trilogy, but instead we're getting kind of this schlocky knockoff version. And I'm sure it'll make money for Millennium, but it looks like their Conan movie.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a video game, like cutscene kind of thing. It doesn't really look like.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but so be it. Mm-hmm. Another new trailer came out this week for another movie that may or may not perform. I think it will, just based on name alone, to a point. Was X-Men: Dark Phoenix. They also released a second new trailer after the first one was somewhat underwhelming, and I think this one looks much better. I was actually
everything that I've heard about it though from people, and I've gotten emails about it and stuff, say that it's just that apparently it's terrible. Like there's
it might be.
There's a real big spoiler that got dropped in Entertainment Weekly this week too, which is kind of.
I mean, it was in the trailer, dude.
It was in the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That they kill Mystique, or that fucking Jean Grey kills Mystique. Mm-hmm. Which is fine. What the fuck? Jennifer Lawrence did not want to be in X-Men Apocalypse.
Well, I feel like that's the only way they got her back. It's like, we'll just,
here's like fucking $3 million. Can you just
the old Harrison Ford Han Solo thing? Like, we promise we're gonna drop you into a reactor. You get shish kebab, the planet blows up, you're not coming back.
We promise you will be dead as fuck. You are not coming back ever. We will make sure. Actually, he is after your body falls down, and it's gonna be like MacGruber type death at the end. Like you are dead. Oh man. Anyways, I think the trailer looks good though. I think it looks. I don't think it looks great. I'm not like, oh my god, this looks so amazing. But I was like, well, it feels like they're kind of going for it and it's like, well, this is it. This is it for the Fox X-Men movies. So, and I know they went back and did reshoots and they've done, some tinkering. So who knows what state it's in now?
I'm most excited for Hans Zimmer's score, to be honest. I'm curious to see him do an X-Men movie, but that's about it. And it's going to be, we'll see. I mean, inevitably we're going to get a reboot in a couple of years anyway. So
yeah, we're going to get something. I don't know.
Oh God, of course.
I'll bet Kevin Feige is like sitting behind his desk and just like, I see him as like this maniacal smile on his face and like fingers touching each other.
You know who I think would be a great Wolverine? Zack Efron.
He's too good looking.
He's a little guy though. Could do his hair.
He's little and scrappy, but I think he's too good looking. But if they uglied him up a little, I think so.
Couple of years, he might get a little less pretty, like the whole Jude Law thing. Jude Law I never really liked when he was young because I thought he was too good looking. But then as he got older, lost his hair and kind of got a little more weathered. Now I really like him.
Yeah, I agree. But and it's funny because I love the movie Closer is one of my all-time favorite movies. Yeah. And I love him in it, but he's like, kind of a wimpy pushover.
Yeah, but he cast to perfection in that movie though.
Yeah, and for his age and that time frame, but you could not cast him in that role today.
No, he'd play he'd play the Clive Owen part.
Yeah, absolutely, which is like really interesting to see how he has evolved in his career.
He'd be great in the Clive Owen part as well.
Fuck yeah.
Although Clive Owen though,
that's Clive Owen's best performance in my book, hands down.
That and Croupier, I think as well. Have you seen Croupier?
I haven't seen that.
No. Oh, that's a really good movie.
Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Another new trailer that dropped this week for a movie that I am predicting is going to be the box office train to stop.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of the big ones this year. That's for sure. I'd be very surprised if that wasn't a massive hit.
I foresee Pokemon. Detective Pikachu giving Avengers Endgame a run for its money. That's my prediction. I know that may sound like craziness, but I'm telling you, I'm looking at the way kids are reacting to this, and adults alone.
I see just people of a certain generation. I mean, my girlfriend was born in '87, and I was going through. We were cleaning out the apartment the other day, and I found like she had old Game Boy cartridges of like Pokemon cartridges, and when she found out they were making a Detective Pikachu movie, she lost her shit. And
think about that.
So she's gonna go see it.
30 people in their 30s, they grew up with Pokemon and the cartoons and the cards, and you have a whole new generation. Like my son, Zack. Everybody has played with, or they know the cartoon, the characters, or Pokemon Go. You can't discount how popular that game is. I've seen adults driving to the Pokemon stops, sitting in their cars trying to catch Pokemon. Like 40-year-old people, I see it all the time, and I'm just like, holy shit! Like this movie is going to be fucking huge. And the other thing is, it's not only going to be huge domestically, but just forget China. Please, that is right up their fucking alley. Like that, Pokemon is going to clean house there. So I foresee this is going to be a huge fucking movie, and I think that it's going to spawn a just insane amount of spin-offs and prequels and sequels and whatever the fuck else. Mark my words. Put it on chalkboard. Don't erase it. Visit it every day. Light candles. Okay, so let's get into our fucking train of WB DCEU at this point. So this week, Kevin Tsujihara talked about the direction of the DC universe based on, kind of where they were and where they're going in the future. It all started with Zack Snyder's take, and he was kind of like the guy that was road mapping it for lack of a better term, in terms of where it was going. And obviously that didn't work out so well for them, although you could argue financially it was working just fine, but critically they didn't want just the money, they wanted good reviews too. Anyways, this is what Kevin had to say. He said the upcoming slate with Shazam, Joker, Wonder Woman 1984, and Birds of Prey feels like we're on the right track. We have the right people and the right jobs working on it. The universe isn't as connected as we thought it was going to be 5 years ago. You're seeing much more focus on individual experiences and individual characters. That's not to say we won't at some point come back to that notion of a more connected universe, but it feels like that's the right strategy for us right now. He also went on to say, what Patty Jenkins did on Wonder Woman illustrated to us what you could do with these characters who are not Batman and Superman. Obviously, we want to get those two in the right place, and we want strong movies around Batman and Superman. But Aquaman is a perfect example of what we can do. They're each unique, and the tone's different in each movie. To me, all of that sounds like, cool, fine. Like, what's the problem here? And I was just like, hey. So I, went on Twitter and I just said, hey, I think this is, I can't disagree with that. I think that's a good solid plan.
Oh, you poor bastard.
Kevin. Yeah. And, pretty innocuous comment, really. Just like, hey, I think that's cool. That's what Marvel did, and it worked out just fine for them. They actually took their time to develop the characters and get to know them and establish them. And, you just can't say anything about DCEU without unleashing this trove of piranhas that seem to be just waiting in the woodwork to just jump and attack at any chance they can with their hashtag release the Snyder Cut. Ugh. And kind of feign this betrayal that they feel over Zack Snyder not making every fucking DC movie for the foreseeable future.
I mean, the thing is, they can't argue with the box office too. I mean,
yes, they can, and they do.
Oh, yeah. How dare you, Chris? Don't tell them what you think.
It's just so dumb that they actually think that, they've got this idea that like it's a conspiracy. That's the thing. I don't know why. Like they feel like it's this conspiracy from Warner Brothers, who specifically doesn't want this to be shown. Like, there's a Pruder tape or something like that. Yeah. It's just we cannot let this cut be shown. And it's just, I'm sure that like Snyder shot a movie and showed them an assembly that they didn't like and stuff. But like you said, like we've said many, many times before, it would take millions of dollars and so much time to get back and get that into any kind of shape that it would be delivered. The only way that we could ever get a Snyder Cut, if we got one, what it would look like? It would be just like the Richard Donner version of Superman 2 that's out on DVD, where it's not really a movie and it's not really Superman 2, because the pieces that they need just don't exist anymore. They would have had to have gotten Christopher Reeve to go back and reshoot, and by that time it was before he had died, but he was in a wheelchair, he was paralyzed. He was quadriplegic, and it was just the time happens. You have a window.
Well, the Donner cut was after he died.
2006, I think. So maybe it was around the time he died, I guess. But
don't argue with Zaki over Christopher Reeve.
No, he died in 2004. So.
Oh, okay. But the thing is, if you watch the Donner cut of the movie, like it's not a movie. They have to plug up the holes in the movie with like a screen test where the haircuts.
It's a very weird watch.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Zaki, what do you think? Because I know you're a big.
And the ending's the same as Superman the movie because it was originally intended for Superman 2. So I mean, I feel like that's what you would get with Justice League. He'd have to fill in chunks of it with, the footage that was reshot by Joss Whedon. What do you think of the Donner cut, though, Zaki?
Well, I what I've said is the Donner cut, to me, as somebody who spent 10 years like sort of hearing about this mythical thing, like, oh, it's out there, and then you wait for it and you get it and you're like, and the adage is,
to get it. Yeah.
It's having isn't as pleasing a thing as wanting sometimes, and I think the Donner edit is it's a fascinating DVD extra.
Yeah. That's what it is, though. It's a DVD extra. It's not a movie.
And part of that, honestly, is Richard Donner got in his own way a little bit because he, not wrongly, he has not great feelings about what Richard Lester did. So he didn't want any of Richard Lester's movie in his cut if it was possible.
Yeah.
And so that tripped up the movie, because I think the best version of Superman 2 would have been a real merger of the best parts of both, but he just didn't want that.
I agree. It would have been, he would have, because the thing that was great about the Donner version was that, you got the Brando footage that they never had. And if you could have integrated the Brando footage into the Richard Lester version of the movie, and also whatever it was, the audio from Gene Hackman, because, Gene Hackman, when Richard Donner got fired from Superman 2, Gene Hackman quit. So that's why Superman 2, the version that's out, half of the dialogue is Gene Hackman, but whenever they had to go back and loop, it's not Gene Hackman anymore. It's a guy doing a Gene Hackman imitation, and it's really, really obvious.
Very obvious, yeah.
Yeah, and it's bad. And somehow Donner was able to either get Gene Hackman to go back in and revoice his role, or they were able to find like the missing tapes or something, and it's seamless, so it sounds great. And to me, that's why I probably will watch Superman 2, the Donner cut, over the Lester version. But like you said, if they had gone back and he had done a merger of the two, you would have had a very serviceable version of the movie out there.
Yeah.
Well, and in the case of Justice League, you have Snyder who shot the script, and he shot the movie, and he delivered a screening cut to Warner Brothers executives, and the resounding thoughts from that screening were that it was unwatchable. And they felt like here's the thing. They would not have blanched like they did if they saw something that they thought was, this is good. It works really well. But obviously what they saw in the Snyder cut that he delivered, that was not a complete film. This was a cut, not a complete film. There's a big difference between a cut and a complete film, just to be clear. And what they saw, I think, that disturbed them. They were like, what? This is like 3.5 hours. What are we going to do with this? They were in trouble.
And
it was a similar thing. I mean, I don't know exactly why Donner was fired, but it was a thing where it's like, we've got to do something.
Well, the Donner thing, they were just assholes, the Salkinds. Like, they really had a lot of disagreements with him, and he was wrongfully fired, and that was why, and Gene Hackman quit, and Marlon Brando quit, and a lot of people, John Williams quit, so a lot of people followed him out the door, and I think the Justice League, it's a little bit different. But the thing about Justice League is that, I mean, I guess I have an interesting vantage point to Justice League, because I was actually on the set for when Zack Snyder was shooting. I got to visit the set with a bunch of other journalists, and I got to see some stuff, right? And the stuff that I saw shoot ended up in the movie, or some take of it ended up in the movie. Yeah. I don't know if it was necessarily the version.
You guys saw the rooftop scene.
Shot. Yeah, exactly. A version of it ended up in the movie.
Well, I don't know. Shot that.
Maybe not. But when I was watching them shoot it, though, it was very jokey. And it was even more jokey than what ended up in the movie. The movie actually played that scene a lot more seriously than it had been in the version I was seeing Zack Snyder shoot. And the feeling that I got watching Justice League being shot was that it was Snyder working from a mandate that was totally different from his own, and a totally different sensibility. And it didn't seem natural.
Interesting.
And I feel like the version of Justice League that was out may not have been any good, because they might have forced him to shoot this other kind of movie that he
doesn't want to make. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not a Zack Snyder film. He has a very specific peculiar take on the material, and I don't think it would have necessarily been
dark, brooding. Like, I think Batman vs Superman is actually the most focused. It's a Zack Snyder superhero movie, and for better or for worse, for some it was worse, for some it was, just this masterpiece. I have a love-hate relationship with it, but I feel like probably, after the critical reception of BVS, they mandated, just as you said, like, hey, we want a lighter tone.
Not just critical, Paul. I mean, the box office.
Mm-hmm.
For BVS?
Yeah, I mean, it dropped like a rock after its first week.
Well, yeah, the second week was bad, but it's still overall, like, globally, it still made like what?
I mean, it's okay, but you have to imagine
for a Batman movie, though, that's not great.
Yeah, and I think the expectations that go for something like that, where you have Batman and Superman in the same movie, that should have been a 1 billion. That should have been what Aquaman did.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes, exactly.
And I always had a really kind of weird feeling when I was on the set of that, because it was all journalists that they had invited that hated the first movie. I was the only one that liked it. And I think the only reason I was invited to it, because they specifically invited me to it, and the only reason I got to go was because I was one of the few critics that had gone relatively easy on the movie. So I was there
on Batman versus Superman.
Yes. And I was there as like an ally of Snyder's. And they pretty much told me that when I was there, that like, he really appreciated your review because he thought it was very fair. And, and that was why they didn't want everybody to be against him, but it was, I really had the perspective though when I was there that they were trying to show these journalists that, you know, this was the kind of movie that we're making, and it was going to be very different, and it was going to be much lighter, and they were showing us all the jokiest footage, right, to make it look like it was a comedy, and I'm sure that's the movie that Zack Snyder shot, but it just doesn't seem like something that was his sensibility at all. And it seemed to me that he had already kind of checked out at that point. You know, I mean, I thought he was a great guy, you know, a really nice guy, and I think was trying to do the best version of the movie that he could, you know, and was trying to be, you know, fiscally responsible to the studio as well. But I just don't think that there's a cut that's out there that people, you know, this mythical Zack Snyder cut. And if you did get a version of that, I don't think it would be what people are expecting or want. I don't think.
Well, here's the thing, though. It's not a mythical cut. I mean, it exists. Like, he screened a cut, not a finished film, a cut. He screened a cut. So for just to clarify to all those that, like, you know, seem to mix this up, yes, a Snyder cut exists. That is not a finished film. No. So let's just be very clear about that, because people seem to lose their minds over just that notion alone. Yes, Snyder cut exists. No, it's not a finished film. Yeah. The end. But here's the other thing that a lot of people don't seem to really take into effect. Like, a lot of the people that are like vehemently want this movie, or at least to see it. What if it's not that good?
Yeah, I don't think it would be.
Why do you think that a 3.5 hour long Justice League movie is going to be good just because it's 3.5 hours long, or just because it's unfiltered Zack Snyder? Listen, the studio saw what they saw, and they did not like it. They didn't. That's why they hired Joss Whedon. That's why they brought him on board. That's why he was there to you know, fix what was broken, and he couldn't do it. And even Joss Whedon apparently couldn't get what he needed. And a big part of this, and I heard another journalist say this as well, is that WB couldn't get out of its own way for this movie.
Yeah.
They couldn't. And you have the final Justice League film is a mixture of Zack Snyder, Joss Whedon, and Warner Brothers. Mm-hmm. There's way too many cooks in the kitchen on this film. And I think that, you know, whatever cut Snyder delivered, the Snyder cut, at the length that it is, the, you know, everything that's in there, maybe it's great. Maybe it's a masterpiece. Maybe it's a complete fucking mess. And maybe it just falls somewhere in the middle of, like, yeah, there's some cool stuff, and there's some, I don't know what the fuck, and there's some shit where it drags on forever, because that was one of the problems I had with Batman vs. Superman. As part of one of the hate aspects that I have is that there's so many unnecessarily long, silly scenes in Batman vs. Superman. So many, like, threads where I'm just like, why is this even in this movie? You don't need 3 hours to tell a Batman vs. Superman movie.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like, it's a mythical thing. I don't think that we're ever going to get the version that they want. You know, maybe we might get a cut at some point that would be, you know, that would put some footage back in, but it's just what they want. This mythical Snyder cut with the Junkie XL score and stuff like that. It's just not going to happen. You know,
well, and that's a great.
Yeah.
That's a great point too, because here's the other thing that people don't think about. You know, there's people I seen, you know, again, oh God, the ire that I dealt with on fucking Twitter, and just the blatant, like, ignorance and of how this all works. And people, here's the problem.
You don't get it, Paul. You don't get it.
I'm just, yeah,
You're
I'm just
a failed
shill.
blogger.
I just rehash news from Variety. That's all I do. I've never scooped anything. I've never gone to a set. I've never interviewed anybody or done anything. There's some dickhead, like, that was like his final, like, nail in the coffin. I was like, well, I'm done with you. Where he's like, you just leech off of articles from Variety. You don't know anything. And I went to IMDb to see how many movies you made. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, here we go. Like, listen, just because you spend hours and hours of your time on Reddit does not mean that you know anything about any specific industry. If you haven't been there, done that, or been a part of it in some way, this is what I do. This is my job. And I wouldn't still be in this job if I sucked at it. I'd be gone. That simple. Anyways, but what, Chris, I want to get back to what you were saying. And here's the thing that people don't realize. There are so many moving parts to getting, if they were to get this movie put out in some releasable form.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to look at the legalities of it, the legal aspects, contracts, timing, rights.
Essentially, it would be a different movie, and they would have to get paid again. You know, like it's just like that's the thing. They would have to get, you know, there would be all kinds of royalties that would have to go towards the actors.
Yeah.
You'd have to get Ben Affleck back to do reshoots, which is never going to happen. You know, physically he can't do it because he has to just to match it up. He'd have to get into Batman shape again.
But again, you're talking about
takes 6
you're
months.
talking about contracts. You're talking about, you know, Ben Affleck is going to get in shape to do some pickups for a Justice League Snyder cut. Give me a fucking break. That ain't going to happen, bro.
He's not going to take 6 months.
Who knows what Cavill's status is on Superman? He may not be Superman anymore. There's no real official word on that. But getting him back, my understanding, and I haven't seen it yet, was that initially he was supposed to do a cameo in Shazam, but I don't think he did it because of everything that fell through recently when he did that weird Instagram post. Like, I don't think he's in it. We'll see. I'll find out.
See, but Paul, see the contention that these people, some of these people, I want to be very careful how I speak, because I mean, there's a lot of people out there.
There are some level-headed people, that just want to see it. That are, and I respect those people, and I respect their desire to see it. But let's be clear: we know, Zaki, you and I know specifically, there are some people that need mental help. Like you need an intervention. I'm telling you right now, there are psychologists right now that are probably like studying up on this phenomena because they're going to have to fucking deal with it. Like they're studying up on the Snyder Cut so they can deal with the crazy people they're going to have to deal with that have lost their fucking minds over this.
I mean, look, this is, and Paul, I've been dealing with this for several years now. And why? Because I had the gall to give Batman vs. Superman a bad review. I've given every single DCEU movie a good review except for Batman vs. Superman. But as a result, I'm a hater. I hate Zack Snyder, et cetera, the usual thing. And the same people have like 5 screen grabs of tweets that they just rotate out they have them saved on their phone, which is so fucked up. You know? It's weird, you know?
Crazy.
But so these are the people in response to everything you're saying, and this is what they say. They say. The idea that Zack would need to do reshoots is ridiculous. He shoots everything from his boards. It's all there. And it's like, again, what you're saying, like that's not how any of this works. That's not how
any movie works. Yeah.
Right. You're telling me I mean, this is the thing. These people actually believe that you're shooting a hundreds of millions dollar superhero movie and you shot it perfectly the first time and don't need any pickups or reshoots, go fuck yourself. You are fucking stupid. That is not how this works. Every Marvel movie goes back for reshoots.
Well, because that's
every
Marvel.
DC movie goes back for reshoots. They have to. It happens. You can shoot your storyboard, and then when you go sit down, you're like, fuck, we're gonna need this to fix this, to add this, to do that, and then you make a whole new list, and then you go back and reshoot it.
Right.
It's standard business. It doesn't mean you fucked up. It doesn't mean the movie's in trouble. It means, okay, that's what we need to do. They allocate for that.
Yeah.
So how people don't understand this and people are like, oh, yeah, you don't know how this works. I'm like, oh my God.
I just don't understand why people can't move on, you know, and to a degree it feels that, you know, Snyder in some ways is baiting them. And, you know,
he is.
Now he's got the kind of director's cut weekend that he's doing, and there's this weird fantasy. They're like, that's when it's coming out, and this is not going to happen. He's showing.
I mean, he would be sued. Warner Brothers would sue him.
Yeah, that movie it's buried. It's going to stay buried, and people just need to move on. They really do.
Well, I mean, I agree with you.
Let me add a thought. You know, honestly, here's my thought. If people don't want to move on, you know what? That's fine. Keep a candle lit for it. The thing is, what we're seeing is there is a level of nastiness
and entitlement. But specifically, and those are connected. But I mean, I've seen this with the way they go after Jeff Johns, the way they've gone after Diane Nelson. Now they're going after Henry Cavill. Now they're going after Gal Gadot. Anyone who doesn't profess absolute fealty to Zack and his vision, and I'm not exaggerating. This is the stuff that I have seen, it is cracked, man. Yeah, like people that refer to Zack as a god. Yeah. You think that they're joking, but they're
Zack.
not. They're not joking. Like they think he's like, I'm not. This is like fucking. You know, these people have drank the fucking Kool-Aid.
God,
Zack Snyder
just wait until that director's cut weekend. The crazy people that are going to show up to that.
Oh God! And the only thing they want to know about is if he's going to release the fucking Snyder Cut. That's all anybody's gonna go there to watch. Nobody needs to go watch fucking Dawn of the Dead or Batman vs Superman. What? I mean, I looked at the tickets because we may send somebody just for the fuck of it, and I even reached out to to Zack and Debbie's rep to see what's going on. And
I'll go. He likes me.
I actually asked if they were,
Chris.
Well, I asked if they were doing press, and they said no. So he's not even doing press. So
wow,
send me. I'll go.
I mean, Paul. The shame of it is that, and Chris, I'm sure you can vouch for this. He seems like a good guy. He seems like a nice guy.
He is a good guy. He was super nice. I think
he's a great guy, and honestly,
and he's a talented.
That's the thing. I've been a Zack Snyder fan from the beginning. Like, me too. I fucking love his work.
The Dead a lot.
I like 300 is I put this out on Twitter yesterday because I thought about it and I was just kind of clarifying it, and it's like I timed my mid-tour leave in Iraq to come home so I could see 300 in theaters. Like
I was it's like a little dated now, but I love Watchmen though. I thought Watchmen is as good an adaptation of that comic as you could have possibly gotten.
Yeah, totally. There's no, and I think that's why it's smart that HBO is not even attempting to redo that because
they did it. He did it exactly, and I mean exactly.
Minus the octopus.
In fact, I think his alternate version was probably the only thing that would have worked though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, octopus would have been weird. It would have been weird. People would be like, why?
I liked the only movie of his that I didn't like was Sucker Punch. It's the only one.
Same here. I think Sucker Punch has like the action scenes I thought were just phenomenal. But the third act just falls apart and it just does not work for me. Even the director's cut with John Hamm, it just makes it more weird. And it's like it's kind of anticlimactic too. And it felt like the story overall felt like something out of like a 13-year-old girl's journal or something. Like it just didn't come together. I thought the performances were good, the action was good, the style was fucking amazing, but the story just did not work for me in Sucker Punch. And that third act, like I shut it off 3/4 of the way through. I'm like, I don't even need to watch the ending. There's nothing happens. So that's kind of the biggest problem that I had with Sucker Punch. But visually, it's amazing.
The guy knows how to frame a shot. He knows how to cut to it. He's very talented, and that's all three of us are coming at it from the exact same place. Where it's like the guy, he's a good filmmaker. Doesn't mean every movie of his is great, but the level of, I've never seen a cult of personality surrounding a director like this.
No,
it's fascinating. Like Paul, I've said this to you before. Like this is going to be like 20 years from now, sociologists study this because it's.
I seriously believe so. I'm not even exaggerating. I'm not joking.
It is a weird phenomenon. I don't know. It's just that's online fandom is just strange, man. It's just strange, and this is one of the stranger kind of twists that we've had, right? Like it's just fucking weird, man. It's true. Every time I tweet about it, and it's just God. I mean,
yeah, you can't say anything about like you say anything about DCEU. You say anything about that, like you get those denizens of release the Snyder Cut people that come at you, and you're like, dude, just shut the fuck up. Nobody's talking about that.
Yeah,
like they feel so like personally attacked over this cut not coming out.
Well, and it's like listen, it's like the Kennedy assassination.
Yeah.
There was a second shooter, like it's just they're insane. It's like Jim Garrison, but like for the Snyder Cut. Back to the left. Eventually, they're going to make a biopic of the Snyder Cut.
Maybe
it's Paul. It's been very funny, Paul. Seeing
to the left.
Back and Paul, you've been called a failed blogger over the last couple of days, which is hilarious. I've been called a failed critic.
A failed blogger. What's a blogger? When the fuck did I become a blogger? I don't even know what that is.
And I've been called
the dumbest term. Whatever.
I've been called an all-around nice guy.
Well, because
Oh, I've been called a shill and all this. It's funny. The irony is that people would call me a shill when they're shilling for a Snyder Cut nonstop. It's like, who's the real shill here? I don't shill for it. I just shill for things I love. That's it. Nobody pays me for that. Give me a fucking break. But the last thing I'll say about this too, and then we'll move on, is that, I think that Snyder, he feels slighted.
Yes, he does.
He feels burned. And I think that's why he continues to post stuff on Vero and like little images and stuff that didn't, make it into the film that, he thought he was delivering and putting out. And I think he feels burned by it. And I think that he is like any artist, that you know, they want their work to be seen, and they want, you know, they want what their original vision was out there. And I think that he continues to kind of fuel his fans with like, hey, they're responding. They really did want to see my movie. So here's an image. Here's a little clip. Here's Apocalypse. Here's this. And then it's having like a really negative backwards effect, I think.
The best thing that Snyder could do, honestly, and I hope he does, is that he just needs to go work on another movie. He just needs to go get back to work.
Well, and he is. He's doing the zombie.
Yeah.
So,
you know,
which I think is a great. That's just a great transition for him. Seriously.
Hopefully he just goes back though and does it and moves on. You know, I mean.
Yeah.
But you know, one thing and I've said this on my show as well. I mean, I can't imagine he doesn't know, he isn't aware of this nastiness, and just saying something about it the way Zachary Levi did earlier this week about, you know, the Captain Marvel stuff going on. I think that would mean a lot, and I kind of wish he would. I'm not saying it's his responsibility. I don't think he's responsible for all this going on, but I think that would mean a lot if he was like, guys, knock it off, you know?
Yeah. Or to come out and say, hey, listen, like, I think that somebody needs to clarify. And I even asked off the record, actually, to his reps, like, you know, what's the deal? Can, you know, would he discuss it? Like, because I've been trying, honestly, for the last year and a half, I've been trying to interview Zack to talk about this, but no dice, you know, they're not talking. And I'm going to keep trying too. So, and I just want to talk to the guy, and I just want to kind of see what he can talk. But here's the thing. He probably legally can't talk about a lot of it. You know, that's the other thing.
Oh, no doubt there's an NDA there.
I'm sure there's NDA. I'm sure there's, you know, there's a time limit before he can say anything and all that other stuff. So you have to take that in consideration too, because even though his movie didn't come out, he still got paid. His name's in the credits. And you know why his name is in the credits as the director of Justice League? Because that means that the majority of his footage is in the movie. That's DGA rules.
Oh, and not only that, but he's got a stake in DCEU as well. You know, I mean, he's still the producer on all those movies, and he cast Gal Gadot, and he cast Jason Momoa, you know. So I
don't think he's not involved in anything beyond Aquaman or Wonder Woman.
No, but he's still getting the money, though, and he's still going to have a credit for sequels to those movies.
He gets a finder's fee.
Yeah.
I think that him kind of clarifying would go a long way. And I think, you know, there's another person that continues to kind of fuel the fans, and that's Jay Oliva, who was the storyboard artist on Justice League and has directed many animated features for DC as well. And he continues to like kind of basically he's kind of rallying these people and telling them, hey, you need to keep up the fight and let's get this cut released and blah, blah, blah. And I think it's misdirected. I think that he's leading people down a path to nothing. You know, you can continue to do that, and you know the Snyder Cut fans like attempted to rally and march on Burbank, and it was like 12 people in Batman and Superman costumes. Like, listen, your movement's going to have to, I mean, you're talking about, you know, women get 1 million people to march on Washington, and you've got 12 people for the release of Snyder Cut. That's not enough people. That's not going to get you the change you want. And I think that, you know, Jay Oliva is continuing to rally people in a way that's not a legitimate way to get them what they're after. You know, this, and really the only fuel that these people are going after is attacking people on Twitter.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what they do. And they really need to step outside that window and move on with their lives. And if it comes one day, great. And if it doesn't, you're going to have to deal with it.
I have to say, though, man, I'm so sick of talking about the Snyder Cut, just those words. And I know that it's a big thing that we're probably going to get more
unless there's news.
It's just,
unless there's news from his Snyder Cut screenings, I think this will be the last time we discuss it. There's really nothing more to be said. This is kind of my final word on it. And honestly, from here on out on Twitter, like if you start I'm just going to block those people at this point. I tried to have a discourse, and it was like, it was impossible.
It was pretty hilarious, I got to say.
It's like banging your head against a brick wall.
I was just like, oh my fucking God, you people.
As someone who was not the recipient of it, I found it hilarious, Paul. Sorry, I was enjoying your misery. I apologize.
Let's talk about one more DC thing, though.
Okay.
So Aquaman has a release date,
2022, which feels like a lifetime away, but I guess it's not that far.
No, I mean it's a good. I mean
it's 2019 now, but still, that's 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't see that it's necessarily a bad thing though, because they do have a lot of content coming out in between then. I'm surprised that it's going to be that long, considering how big of a hit it was. But you know, they also though. I'm assuming though that by setting it into 2022 though, that one is not coming back as a director, so they're going to need.
Maybe he is.
Maybe that's his only window. But also though, I have a feeling though that he's probably not coming back, so they have to find a new director, and they've got to go through this whole thing, and that takes time, you know. And sometimes that pays off, sometimes it doesn't. But you know,
I think Warner Brothers is going to fight for him.
I can't imagine James Wan not coming back. That's interesting that you said that, Chris.
I don't know.
I think they'll move heaven and earth, and I think that's part of the reason why it's so far back, because James has said, "Look, I'm not jumping right back into that," and that's why it's that far out. James is going to go do something else.
I'm a big fan of them taking though a bit of time between sequels. You know, I always found that 2 years is just too quick for some movies, and you know, and it just feels rushed at a certain point. And you know, so I don't know. I kind of like that. You know, even Wonder Woman is getting 3 years. You know, and 3 years to me is a good amount of time. 4 years is a bit long, but you know, it was 4 years between Quantum of Solace and Skyfall, and that worked out.
Honestly, I think 3 to 4 years is good. That gives you time to really flesh out the story, which is really important, obviously. But, you know, it gives you that time. And you ask any filmmaker, ask them what they would like more of in any production. Time. It's always time. Mm-hmm. And you just don't have it. You know, you have a deadline, you have to make it, and that's that. And they got to that. And I think with Aquaman, because like also the logistics of shooting that, I was on the set, and I remember I was like, God damn! Like, I mean, the stuff they had to build, the rigs they had to build to like to recreate them, to look like they're swimming, because they built these harnesses, right? Where like when you see them, like the scenes where there's a bunch of characters talking underwater, and they're like, you know, kind of swimming around each other, they're really doing that.
And you're getting
built it with these rigs. Like it's not a simple process. You're not just having people standing in a room talking to each other. So.
And you're getting Aquaman stuff too. They're gonna have the trench and whatever, you know. So,
anyways, I fucking loved Aquaman. Nobody paid me to say that. I fucking love it. I actually have Aquaman poster hanging in my house prominently, and I fucking love it. I can't wait. I think it comes out on digital next week, and
on Tuesday.
I'll be watching that shit fucking nonstop. Guaranteed.
You're just a shill, Paul. You're a shill.
Yeah. I'm shill for what I love.
I gotta take a piss. I'll be right back.
It's pee break time. Now's our time to talk about Chris behind his back.
Yeah, I might need to jump off as Chris comes back. So
you shut your damn mouth. That's okay. I just wanted to talk about the Snyder Cut stuff with you because.
Oh my God, dude! It's again what I was saying about the screen grabs. That's it, like there's like. Go into my Twitter history. I've never insulted Snyder. I've never made fun of his daughter's death. I would never do something like that. You know, I've been pretty down the middle. I made one tweet after, like in August of 2016, so about 6 months after BVS comes out, where it's like, oh, Man of Steel sequel might be happening. And I'm like, just as long as Zack Snyder isn't involved, I'm fine with it. And that, and I regret phrasing it that way because holy Moses, right? I wouldn't do that now. I would say it in a very different way, or just not say it. But I mean, geez, it's you know, I tell Brian about this because Brian's not on Twitter, so for him, I describe this stuff, and he's like, "Why are you even on?"
The life he must live.
Yeah, it's very funny because he's just like, "Why are you on Twitter?" And I'm like, "I don't know." That's a very good question.
I don't know either. To be honest with you, I don't need to.
I'm back.
Welcome
Man,
back.
You pee like a racehorse, dude.
Oh, I know.
He's like, I gotta put that's why I always put the Leslie Nielsen Naked Gun peeing thing in there. It's my favorite thing to do.
Whoops.
Whoops. No. I miss Leslie Nielsen.
Very Canadian.
So R.I.P. Leslie Nielsen.
Very Canadian.
Okay, so I think we've covered all our DC stuff. Zaki, do you need to duck out?
Yeah, if this is a good opportunity for me to, I mean,
it's never a good opportunity for you to leave, but if you must, we will.
Well, all I'll say before I go is, I know Rambo is on the agenda, and I'm very excited for the next Rambo movie. The last.
Well, let's go into it really quick while you're still here, then.
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk it. I mean, it's not gonna be that long, anyways. So Rambo: Last Blood was announced that it's coming out in September of this year, and Fuck yeah. I mean, what else can I say? I can't wait.
I'm there.
Like,
I'm
honestly,
there.
if he kept making Rambo movies till the day he died, I would, or the day I died, fuck at this point, I would just keep going.
My dream interview with Sylvester Stallone, because the thing is, I grew up watching Stallone movies. You know, he was a really important, him and Schwarzenegger, to be honest, because they were the two most important actors to me when I was growing up. I idolized both of them, right? I can't imagine what my childhood would have been like without Stallone and Schwarzenegger. You know, it was just, they were really aspirational figures to me. They're everything that I wanted to be. And I would say, you know, as much as I talk about, like, I joke about Don Johnson and stuff like that, but like for me, it was Schwarzenegger and Stallone. And I mean, sitting down with Stallone or Schwarzenegger, either of those two guys, would just be kind of the pinnacle of what I've done for Joe Blow. It would be the icing on the cake, because I would, you know, it's just, I don't know, man, you know, and Rambo, those movies were huge for me when I was growing up, you know, and I just, oh man, I love them. And I cannot wait for a new Rambo movie. I'm super excited. It sounds like a really cool take on the material. And I just hope there's a great line like, Murdoch, I'm coming to get you.
It'll be interesting to see where they take him. Because I think Rambo, the fourth one, like, really ended on a it could have ended forever
easily.
Right,
yeah, it could have ended right there and it would have been perfect.
Yeah. So it's like they kind of have a free reign to see like what, you know, an aging Rambo is doing with his life. But, you know, it seems like he's...
And from the pictures we've seen, he's like Cowboy Rambo, which is, I guess that was one action figure they never made in the 80s. So
it's just weird. It's going to be weird seeing him out of the jungle.
Yes.
But I think he's going into the desert.
Yeah.
And he's been in the desert before. So, you know, it'll be Rambo. I'm curious, because to me, when I saw Rambo 4 in the theater, it was like I just got back from Iraq. And I remember I saw it with the theater was full of my fellow Geronimo brothers. And it was amazing because we just got back from war and we're watching this movie, and it was like we were right back in it, but we were still riding the high of war. So it wasn't like the detrimental part. And the violence in Rambo is so realistic. Some people think it's cartoonish or something, but when you shoot somebody with a 50 cal machine gun and you see those bodies blow apart, that's what a 50 cal really does.
Wow.
And you know, we were sitting there watching it and we were like, holy shit. Like, they are showing, like, they are really going full legit. And like, we were like cheering in the theater because we we're like, fuck, whoa, my God. So my hope, if anything, is not so much that they have to have that level in the new Rambo movie, but it is a Rambo movie. So, and if we get to see some fucking, you know, drug lords get blown to shit, I would champion that.
Well, I mean, you know, the thing about the Rambo movies, though, it's always, you know, when he gets pushed, you know, that he's just like this lethal weapon that you cannot put back in its box. It's a force of nature, and he'll slaughter everything in his path, you know, and that's Rambo. That's the character, you know, and it's pretty cool. I mean, you know, I love all those movies, right? I mean, First Blood is a really underrated, excellent.
That's a legitimately good movie.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
great.
A good study of PTSD, and you know, it's really amazing. You know, and people gave it shit, and you know, and it's funny. I'm watching a show now, Bodyguard on Netflix, and in some ways, Bodyguard, which is super acclaimed now, people love it, and it's very good. But in certain ways, they're kind of almost doing a tribute to First Blood in a certain way, because this guy is, you know, kind of broken when he comes back, right, and isn't really understood by people. And you know, the people made fun of First Blood when it came out originally, and now you watch it and it's so ahead of its time. It's more like because the things they said about PTSD, I don't think people really understood it back then. You know, it was probably one of the first movies that was actually really about that. You know,
they still don't understand it today. No, it's just got a new name. No. The name has changed for years and years. Yeah. And this is coming from somebody that suffers from it heavily.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a real thing. And, you know, I think that First Blood, really, what it really does, not so much that it's ahead of its time, but rather that it captures the reality of it to a point. Which does not mean that I'm going to hijack trucks and run into the woods and stab things and
I'll be like
take on the National Guard.
Well, you know,
his job to kill.
If I might add, I mean,
that was a good Troutman.
That was pretty good. I think what First Blood, what First Blood benefits
Company
from
leader calling lone wolf. Company leader calling lone wolf.
Wow, you really do have the movie memorized.
Come in, Johnny. I love that movie.
They do First Blood, not me.
To survive a war, you got to become a war.
American, who are you? I'm your worst nightmare.
That's either Weird Al or.
Oh, fuck, that's funny. Zaki, you were saying you had a point.
No, I think First Blood benefits from the fact that, the book was written from David Morrell's perspective of encountering these people who are coming back from Vietnam and who were dealing with the emotional trauma. So I think there's a reality to that, even though the film is not entirely accurate to the book. I think there's an overall reality, like you can sort of get your arms around it. And obviously in the later films, James Cameron, et cetera, they made him more of a superhero, which is fine. But I think that's the reason to me that Rambo, the franchise, has this reputation, and you either like it or you don't. But I always tell people, watch First Blood, because that's just a good movie.
Well, and then
it's very different than
have you seen the alternate ending of First Blood that's out there on YouTube?
It's it's not a good ending because the message is
there's no way
this is the only solution.
Listen, I mean, we're talking about how PTSD, the realities of PTSD. The truth is that happens. There's guys that are driving to VA parking lots and killing themselves in the parking lot.
Yeah,
like that's how bad it's gotten, and that's where it is. But it's obviously it's not a topic anybody wants to discuss. It's they want to worry about a movie getting released, not veterans killing themselves in a parking lot. It's happening all the time, but that's a very real thing, because you get a lot of these guys, a lot of my guys, they get to a point where they just there's nothing they can do with the pain, and there's no future that they can see. And I think that was a very real thing for Rambo in the book. In the movie, we want him to live. He's Stallone. He becomes a hero, but he's still a very flawed person. And in the end, he wanted to be a good guy. He wanted to serve his country and do the right thing. And then all of a sudden, he's the bad guy. He's the criminal. It's like, what do you do with that?
Wow.
So I could see both sides of that, and it's a crippling thing to see and to even think about. But sadly, I could see why he would take that route, but I wouldn't want him to, it'd be like, I'd be Troutman. I'd be like, hey, fucking, let's not do that. But it is happening.
And Stallone's performance in that final scene, I know some people kind of joke.
Oh yeah, no, he's great. He's great.
It's amazing. It's a tremendous performance, and it's the most vulnerable outside of maybe in Creed, that he's ever been.
Yeah.
People just like to give him shit back to them. That was the thing, and they made fun of him. And Stallone's way smarter and a way better actor than anybody lets him on. And there's a reason his career has gone on as long as it has, and he's outlasted everybody. There's a reason.
You know what is in many ways Stallone, or maybe you could go the vice versa on this. It's kind of like the Rob Liefeld of comics. Like people love to pick on Liefeld and talk about how shitty his drawings are and everything. Motherfucker has outlasted just about everybody and has made a massive career out of what he does. Love him or hate him, it doesn't fucking matter. Obviously, there's more love than hate. And I think Stallone is very much the same way. And he's made some turkeys, man. I don't think anybody's
he survived Rhinestone.
And Oscar.
Yeah. Did Rhinestone
Stop or My Mom.
I saw Stop or My Mom Will Shoot in movie theaters.
Oh my God.
You poor bastard.
Yeah.
But I mean, we talked about this last week though. Like Stallone is really, he's not slowing down.
No.
Even like Schwarzenegger, he went on to be governor and do all this other shit. Stallone's like, well, you go do that. I'm just gonna keep fucking making movies, and he's just full on ahead, still going. Yeah. I think it's a beautiful thing. Keep going, Stallone.
Keep going.
Sly.
Yes. A friend of mine, Rehan Jalali, trained him for Rambo. He's a fitness trainer. He also trained Affleck actually for Batman. So I'm very curious if if he trained him for this one too.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
I feel like Stallone would be probably the one interview that if I did it, I'd be super, super, super intimidated just because it's the guy is like a god.
He's like I've talked to him. I've interviewed him and I met him in an Expendables 3.
Expendables, right?
God, you're so lucky.
And dude, we sat at this huge long table with
a
whole cast. And Stallone, just like in that Expendables 2 poster where he's they do the Last Supper and he's sitting in the middle, it was the same thing. And he was like the father
Yeah,
he was the patriarch of this crew. Like they looked at him that way. And when he sat down to like talk to us,
wow.
And he is like legit fucking shredded. Like when you look at, you just see his muscles just like bulging out. And you're just like, he's not even flexing. Like this guy is just fucking naturally amazing.
I feel like I would be able to call him Sly. I'd just be like sir or boss. Just call,
Dad for some reason.
Everybody at that table was looking up to him. I mean, and you had you had Snipes, you had Dolph Lundgren, you had Jason Statham, then you had all the younger crew, Ronda Rousey and all the others sitting on the other side. And it was like, they looked up to him and he kind of led the conversation
because of him.
And then, but you know what? He was really friendly and cool. And after we were done with that discussion, he stopped and he was talking to us like at the doorway. And I remember he's holding a banana because he grabbed two bananas. He grabbed two bananas, like, just to like snack on as he was getting ready to walk out. So we're sitting there talking to Stallone in his Expendables gear, and he's like just holding two bananas, which was kind of funny.
It's weird seeing your hero snack, eh? I mean, when I interviewed Christopher Walken, I was on a round table with Christopher Walken, and I was there early because I had just interviewed Rockwell. And then I'm sitting in the room alone, and then Walken just kind of randomly walks in, and it's just the two of us. And then he's like, "Hey, hello," and I'm like, "Oh, hi," and he goes, "I'm just gonna get some tea," and then he's looking at it, and he's like, "Wow, look at all these tea bags." It's amazing.
That is a brilliant Christopher Walken impression.
Oh, he's so good. Yeah, he was so nice.
You got the walk in. That's pretty good.
I feel like he was affecting it though. When I walked in, like I feel like he was giving me what I wanted. He was giving me a walk-in story to tell people.
I'll never forget when I was on the X-Men Apocalypse set, and there was like, we were just kind of waiting around, and they're like, nothing's going on if you guys want to go over to craft services and just grab some coffee or whatever. And we're like, okay, cool. So we start walking over there. And as we get there, we see Oscar Isaac in full Apocalypse gear. But you know how he had the like, what do you call it? Like the cables that connected from his helmet to his neck. They weren't connected. So it looked like it was Apocalypse with dreadlocks because they were just dangling. And he's just standing there with a coffee cup. So there's Apocalypse. And Oscar Isaac's pretty short. Yeah. So Apocalypse, you would think, is like really big, imposing guy. We were all taller than him. And here's Apocalypse with dreadlocks and his coffee just waiting right there. And he didn't realize that we were, a bunch of journalists were walking over there. So then his people rushed him away as we walked over. But it was really funny. Like there's Apocalypse just chilling with his coffee and his dreadlocks as we walked up. It's just, in many ways, it kind of takes the magic out of those things because you see how the donuts are made, and you're just like, oh, look at that.
It's also kind of cool though that the director of Last Blood is Adrian Grunberg, who I really liked. Get the Gringo.
I love
that was great.
That was the best movie you never saw in that. I think that was one of my last ones.
Really cool movie.
Great fucking movie. Fucking hell, motherfucker. So, anyways, Rambo: Last Blood coming in September. You'll be there.
I'm excited.
Fuck yes. Fuck yes. Murdoch.
By the way, guess what just turned up in my inbox?
What?
Dragged Across Concrete.
Oh, shit. You better fucking hook it up.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Don't mess around.
Fucking excited.
I'm going to drag you across concrete if you don't send me that link.
Wah, wah.
All right, Zach, are you sticking around? Or you got to bounce out.
I'm going to jump based on the level of chaos I'm hearing. It sounds like apocalypse outside. So,
all right, go wrangle up your village. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Zach,
you, gentlemen.
Where can we catch you online so we can plug you?
Go to my website, zakiscorner.com. That's ZAKIS Corner. It's also my Twitter and my Instagram. And of course, please subscribe to the Movie Film Podcast, One Word Movie Film, to hear more of my rantings along with my good pal and partner, Brian Hall.
Nice.
Sweet. Thanks for joining us, Z-Man.
Thank you. Man. Take care.
See you, buddy.
Bye-bye.
All right. So
Paul, should we just knock out a couple of these real fast?
Real fast? Sure. Let's see. I
want to take a little time to discuss the Spielberg thing. So let's.
Okay, we'll talk about Spielberg last. So let's go through. So Rami Malek is apparently in final negotiations to play the villain in the next Bond movie, Bond 25.
Interesting. I mean, it doesn't sound like he'll be much of a physical threat to Bond. You know,
I don't know, man. Don't discount the training. I think you probably could say the same thing about Daniel Craig before he was Bond.
Yeah, maybe. But you know, Rami Malek does have a really interesting presence, though, so I could definitely see it. And
I think it's a cool transition from you know, Bohemian Rhapsody to this. I think that's a cool.
I mean, they need somebody to do a better job than Walken did in the last movie. Not Walken, sorry, Waltz did in the last movie. No,
you want to get Christopher Walken?
Hey, he was Bond. Hey,
in a Bond movie.
Yeah,
I want a Christopher Walken Bond villain.
That's Max Zorin, right on schedule. He says schedule, right on schedule. It's so strange. Him and Grace Jones. But my hair.
Mr. Bond.
But
I expect you to die. Okay, so I mean, I think Rami Malek would be a really cool choice. I think that he's got the look, like he's a unique looking person. So I think that, and the motherfucker can act. So yeah, I think that's a cool.
I liked the idea of Lupita Nyong'o as well as the Bond girl, but they say now though that she's not doing it. That'd be cool though. 2 Oscar winners. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Lupita Nyong'o, I'm telling you, I always liked her, but I have a totally new perspective on her now after having seen that that movie that she was in at Sundance, Little Monsters, which is her doing a zombie comedy and just such a light-hearted part. You know, she plays it almost like a Julie Andrews walking into a zombie movie. You know? She does a great. The movie's okay, but she's legitimately great in it. She's hilarious and she's really good, and it's just such a lighthearted role. Like, you know, it's great to see Lupita smile and laugh and have fun in a part.
Yeah, I think that's the thing too. Is she's done so many serious.
We've never seen that side of her before.
Well, she was good in Black Panther, but even Black Panther was still kind of a.
No, but
this didn't quite get to expand as much as she could have in that
contemporary part 2, and she's speaking with her kind of just with her regular not affecting an accent or anything also, and it's just, she's just really funny in it, and I don't know, I really singing Taylor Swift songs, and there's a part where she talks about this sexual fantasy that she has about the Hanson band, you know. she's so much. Yeah, that's the last song in the movie. She's actually really, really funny in it, and just so kind of effervescent and likable.
But she's also very sexy. So
she's beautiful. I mean, that's
chocolate delight. I mean,
kind of
should absolutely be a Bond girl. Why not? Man?
Kind of the point of the movie about Little Monsters is kind of funny. So it's basically this slacker Australian guy who's kind of this really shitty uncle, and he basically takes he has to be like the monitor for like this field trip to the zoo, and he's just not interested. But then he gets a load of the teacher, and the teacher is Lupita Nyong'o, and he's like, "Oh wait, yeah, I'll be the monitor, yeah, definitely." Got with her really badly. She's hot, she's gorgeous in it too. She was this yellow dress she's smoking, but she would be a great Bond girl, like one of the kind of, you know, Bond girls that could go toe to toe with him, I think. But
it's nice to. I mean, listen, like
I could definitely see it happen.
You know, I don't get wrapped up in the diversity stuff quite like everybody else, because I think it's fucking stupid. But you know, we've had plenty of, like, you know, kind of your standard looking, you know, brunette white girl kind of thing. Which nothing against brunette white girls. You could hire another one, but I'm just saying, like, it's nice to spice it up from time to time. Like when Halle Berry was in, like, fucking perfect, you know. But
she would be a really good Bond girl, I think.
Yeah, I mean, just fuck. I just love beautiful women, so
that's a deal that they should make.
But really. They've had you know, black women. They've had
but she would just. But you know, she would just. I think also she would give a great performance, though. That's the thing. Yeah. She's beautiful, but she would also be amazing.
But she could be unique. I think again, and that's like what I like about Rami as a villain is, like, they're unique. Like that feels like a unique group to pit against Bond. So she
has a very distinct look to her, and I don't know. I think she'd be really, really good. I kind of hope that they go back and make the deal.
I really hope they don't have Christoph Waltz as the villain again, though.
Oh, they're not going to. I think he was so poorly received in the last one. I know that they're gonna somehow connect it because Léa Seydoux is in it, but she's not the main Bond girl, so she's probably gonna get killed off at the beginning. You know, and so I'm sure it's gonna be connected somehow, but. You know, I think it's cool too, though. They should do it like the old Bond movies, where Blofeld was always a different actor. Have Rami Malek play Blofeld this time; it'd be great.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Fuck. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm interested to see. Obviously, I love the Bond movies, although I hated Spectre. So I'm excited.
Spectre is the only Bond movie that I've only seen once, and I'm the biggest Bond fan you'll ever.
It's the worst. I'll tell you, the bad experience too for me for Spectre was that I wanted to take my kid and get him into Bond, and that was his first Bond movie, and I was like apologizing for it afterwards. I was like, they're not all like this, And I was like, I feel like I lost him on the Bond front, so I got to try again maybe in a couple of years and show him some of the good ones. But I was hoping that like the theatrical experience of Spectre would be, great, and it was just fucking terrible. So
I am the biggest Bond fan, and I say this right now, sitting in my living room with my two Bond posters hanging out.
Roger Moore.
Yeah, I've got View to a Kill and Octopussy hanging over me. I've got opposite me, I've got my 3 Funko Pop Bond figures. I've got a Goldfinger poster in the hallway. I've got another Roger Moore poster framed in the hallway. And I mean, I cried on the air on CTV when Roger Moore died, or I got choked up anyway, because it was big, James Bond, very important to me, and I really legitimately love James Bond movies. And I'm very excited to hear Daniel Craig is coming back. And, bittersweet, thought also that if this is the last Daniel Craig, very real chance this will be the last time Bond will be older than me. Like the next time they cast a James Bond will be younger than me. And that's going to be a strange thing when you're younger than James Bond, because he's always my hero and you look up to him. It's going to be very strange. That's
what happens when you get old, motherfucker.
Yeah, it sure does.
So moving on, so we knock out a few more of these before we get into this Spielberg thing. Looks like Will Smith is not returning as Deadshot for James Gunn's Suicide Squad, which is said to be kind of a soft reboot of The Squad, which I don't know. I don't know how to take that, because the thing is, Suicide Squad has traditionally in the comics changed characters. So I don't know that it's necessarily a soft reboot. I mean, again, I'd have to see it, but it sounds like more like just a changing of the guard, which is commonplace for the films. I do find it surprising that Will Smith isn't returning, given that Suicide Squad is his highest grossing movie ever. So that's a weird choice. And he's made weird choices before, like not to be in Django Unchained. He didn't take The Matrix. So I think Will Smith is a really cool guy, really talented, and he's doing Bad Boys for Life right now. But I feel like sometimes like his choices don't make a lot of sense to me. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't return as Deadshot, unless he has something against James Gunn, which I think is just fucking stupid. No. But
he follows his own muse, and apparently it's a scheduling thing, and maybe
that's what they say. I don't ever buy the scheduling.
Maybe he's doing Bright 2, which is is anybody asking for that? And it's just
it's a weird. Why would you choose Bright? Which it did well for Netflix. That's good, and it was an okay movie. But why would you do that over Deadshot? In Suicide, it's your highest grossing movie.
Do we really need him back though? I mean, I feel like I hope that they get Margot Robbie back as Harley Quinn.
Well, apparently they have her back, but
they need her, and I'd like Viola Davis back as Amanda Waller. As much as I liked Viola Davis, though, I still think it was a missed opportunity, and Oprah Winfrey would have been even better in that part. Just seeing Oprah Winfrey coolly murder people would have been hilarious. But
she'd probably never do it.
No, but. Anyway,
Davis is awesome. I'd really, she is really good. If there's any character that we could connect through the DCEU, I would want it to be Amanda Waller. I just think she's a great character. Yeah. She's just a unique kind of personality in that universe, because she's not really good or bad, and I love that about her. I love that kind of strange duality of Amanda Waller.
I do feel though, like Deadshot, it's not that big of a deal though that he's not coming back. Like I'm still very.
I don't think it is. Yeah. Well, and the question now is, are they going to recast the role or put in a different character?
I don't think so. I think they'll slip in a different character, and they'll leave the door open for him to come back. Because why wouldn't they? Well, Will Smith.
And I think really the smart play for Smith would be to pursue a Deadshot solo film.
Yeah. Because
again, that was his highest grossing movie. Why not pursue that? And I would go see it. Fuck, I would go see it on that principle alone. It would have to look pretty terrible for me to miss it. But it's interesting, and I'm actually very excited for James Gunn to be doing this. And honestly, I wish, even though I hate James Gunn's outward politics, and I think he's probably learned from that going forward, but I would love to talk to him. I mean, I'd really just want to show my support, because I support James Gunn. I think he got fired fucking unceremoniously, and it's bullshit. But I'm just super happy to see him picking up work again. So I would really like to just talk to him and show our support and see what he does. I think he's going to do something cool. So I feel like really Suicide Squad can almost be like a revenge fuck movie for James Gunn. I think that would just be, there's like so much that he could put into this, kind of take the anger and the betrayal that he's gotten from this Guardians deal and this Marvel Disney deal and kind of funnel it into Suicide Squad. I think he could really make a great middle finger movie.
I'm sure that he'll put together a really cool cast too. I'm pretty interested to see.
Oh, for sure. I hope he gets Bautista, because Bautista's kind of like a wild card, and there's so many people he could play.
Yeah, and he's gotten a bat for him too as well.
Yeah. That would be great if they got Bautista. That'd be awesome.
He seems like a stand-up guy as well, And he's also, I think, quite versatile. So I'd like to see him.
And you know what? I just read an interview with him this past week, and he's not trying to be The Rock or John Cena. He's very happy to be the character actor, and that's what he wants.
And it's going really well for him too. I mean, he's going to be in Dune,
he's in Dune, and he's very happy with it.
I mean, I'm sure that it seems that the people that he works with really like him, and they keep acting with him again and again and again. So good for him.
Good, seriously, good for him. I'm happy to see him continue to go. So the other weird news of the week,
View Sonic the movie,
and there's people. This is the thing that irks me is people well, they could do something with it. Like the kids, they could just put it up to their eyes and get transported to the world. I'm like, oh my fucking God, that's such a fucking original idea. I'm going to write a script where you pick up this magic rock and get transported to a world.
My pet rock. My pet
rock the movie. How is that an original? People are well, they could do it. That would be great. And I'm like, give me a fucking break. A View Sonic was a toy, and I played with these stupid things. And when I say play, I mean that lightly, because I put in about 2 slides and I went through them and I was done in about 2 minutes and I never played with it again.
You throw them across the room.
Yeah, who gives a fuck about the goddamn View Sonic? Why are you making a View Sonic movie?
The little thing that you would use to hit the button to would always break. And when's the last time anybody used the View Sonic? 1987?
I mean, it's and I said this on Twitter, it's the equivalent of cavemen discovering fire. It's how is this some fucking crazy invention that people give a shit about?
Let's make a movie about Quicksilver. You remember that old game Quicksilver with the mercury and all those kids went insane and died? God. Let's do that.
Or and I did Lincoln Logs the movie. Yeah. You build some Lincoln Logs and then all of a sudden it comes
Operation.
To life.
Make Operation.
Operation.
Have to operate on this guy. It's there's no doctors. These children are gonna operate on you.
I'm gonna make a Slinky movie, and all it is gonna be a Slinky just going down steps for 2 hours.
What?
Longest row of steps.
Rolls over in Paris for another your neighbor's door.
When people say the word cash, shut your mouth. When people say the word cash grab and they use it a little too often, this feels like a cash grab. This feels like, hey, we're going to use View Sonic, and it's just the most arbitrary, ridiculous thing. To make a movie just like Jumanji, where kids pick up a View Sonic and get transported to whatever world's in the fucking View Sonic. And how is that an original cool thing?
Hey, just do that put down the View Sonic. Let's see, you want to get out of there? Put it down.
Fucking stupid. Anyways, whatever. Fucking View Sonic movie. Kiss my ass. Let's see. Well, before we get into the Spielberg thing, I did want to address, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole on it, but Rotten Tomatoes has eliminated their comments section prior to a film's release, which means they're not eliminating it altogether. You just can't comment prior to the movie coming out. And they've changed the want to see percentage to just a number. And all of this has stemmed from the negative reception. What some is trolls and some is just legitimate criticism of a movie and the star in it. But basically they barraged the fucking site. And it painted a not so pretty picture for the film.
But the issue with that, though, and I kind of agree with Rotten Tomatoes in this, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Rotten Tomatoes, is that if they're voting on the quality of the movie, they haven't seen the movie yet, so they should.
No, but that wasn't. It's not voting on the quality. It's voting on whether you want to see it or not.
Oh, okay.
So they didn't. There's nothing that was changed in terms of. See, and this is where it gets misconstrued in a lot of reports, is that people are saying that people were posting negative reviews. That's not accurate. They were posting negative comments in the comments section. So I feel like Rotten Tomatoes has kind of owned that spin to make it sound legitimate. But really, they just closed off the comments section, so you can't comment prior to the movie coming out. And they said the reason that they had the comments open prior to a movie was just to have a place where people could talk about the film and talk, about their hype and all that other stuff. But it's funny that as soon as you get any kind of negative reception, they decide to just close the comments.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing is, I guess the guy that is president of Fandango, that runs Rotten Tomatoes, is a former Disney employee.
Sure.
Worked for Disney. So you have to, listen, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a
No,
realist.
I mean, look,
So-
it is. That's probably what happened. I'm sure that Disney put pressure on them, but fair enough. Disney, we're going
the narrative.
we're going towards something of a monopoly here, and it's just
Control the
all,
narrative. I'm telling you, it is. It's a problem.
It's Marvel and it's Lucasfilm. It is almost a monopoly at this point, and I'm sure that what they say goes,
and this is the thing that I have a problem with. Anything that basically anything that comes down to censorship or anything that comes down to trying to control a narrative with leaving out the truth or the reality is a problem for me, and I get very passionate about that. So anybody that tries to like basically subdue anybody else, that's a problem. I fucking unleash on that stuff. And I feel like that's one of the negative effects when you look at this Fox Disney merger. It's like, how many keys to the kingdom are you going to give these people?
How much
it's going to get to a point where maybe Captain Marvel isn't that good. I haven't seen it. I don't know, but maybe it's not great. I mean, maybe it really isn't. Maybe it's just okay. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's not terrible, but maybe it is a 67% in terms of audience eyes or whatever the fucking case may be. But bottom line is, Disney is looking at this and they're like, oh, fuck. And I know they're playing some damage control here. And you can't imagine that a company like Disney that has its hand and fingers in so many pies would just let that happen and be like, well, we're not worried about it. But I guarantee you, I mean, again, this is not conspiracy theory stuff. This is realist stuff. Some fucking phone calls and emails were sent and complaints were lodged about that happening. This is a $100 million something movie that they're pushing. It's the biggest release for March by far. I can't imagine that Disney would just stand by and let it happen, but they should, because they don't have any stake in it. It's not they don't have a stake. It's not the right thing for them to step in and interfere with that. That's bullshit.
I do resent the fact that the Rotten Tomatoes is so ubiquitous, though, because it does simplify criticism of movies so much as either good or it's bad, and it's just it's a middle ground for most of these movies.
If we took a stake in that and we said that Rotten Tomatoes was the end all be all, Chris, you'd probably be out of a job, or your job would be much easier because all you would have to do is I would open up your Captain Marvel review and it would just be a number, no words, just a number, just a giant fucking 7.
Yeah.
So fucking stupid. I continue to loathe Rotten Tomatoes to the highest order. Not the people that work there. I know there's people that work for Fandango.
They're actually great people,
really good people. And it's honestly, it's a good gig for them. It's a name fucking.
Look, I do appreciate Rotten Tomatoes for the exposure that we get. I mean, it helps our traffic. It absolutely does. Well, you guys get pretty pissed when I don't post my reviews on Rotten Tomatoes.
I don't.
Sure you do. Are you kidding? Whenever I'm at Sundance, I always get messages from you saying, "Hey, Bumbray, post your thing on Rotten Tomatoes now."
No, I don't.
Make sure to post on Rotten Tomatoes. I've gotten that same message.
That's just for early reviews. For early reviews, for sure. Because that's a good way to get get it for that. But look, it's nice. It is what it is. But I'm not gonna. I mean, I know where our traffic comes from. Rotten Tomatoes is not a predominance, but it's nice. It does exist, but so it goes. I think if anything, if you want to use Rotten Tomatoes the right way or the best way, the most effective and realistic way that I think serves the art of film to the highest order is to go to the actual reviews, scroll down and click on them and I don't know, read them. Yeah. If you're just clicking on a title for a movie that you think you might want to see and you're looking at a score and then you just close the site, you just did it wrong. Okay? If that was enough for you, then that's a problem. Because that's not what tells you what's a good film. There's too many films that are rated rotten, way too many films that are rated rotten that I fucking love.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
One last thing before we get into our big talk, though. We talked about Edge of Tomorrow 2 last week, and now there's actually been movement on it.
I know.
How random is that, eh? Isn't that strange?
I know. As soon as I saw it, I was like, well, there you go.
I know, me too. Like, well, it shows you what we know.
Yes, we don't know shit. But, yeah, but I still, even when
it's not going to happen, I don't think it's going to happen. I think
still, the story is that Warner Brothers wants it.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice. Of course. That's nice, but you might want to talk to Paramount, who has Tom Cruise locked up for back-to-back sequels of Mission Impossible. So they may want it. When they get it is another story.
Yeah.
And they're also saying they want Lyman back. But you also got to remember, Macquarie was a writer on Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he's busy with Mission Impossible too. So that's great that you want it and that you want Cruise and Blunt back. But making that happen is a whole other story.
And it doesn't need to happen, to be honest. There are a lot of other movies I'd rather. I really, really, really wish that Tom Cruise and Cameron Crowe would team up again, because I think that Cameron Crowe has been missing Tom Cruise. Because nobody can do the kind of Cameron Crowe part, that's absolutely completely free of any kind of cynicism or anything, that's just completely genuine. Nobody can do that like Tom Cruise can. Like, I love Jerry Maguire. That movie would not have worked with anybody else in the lead. And I think that if Tom Cruise had starred in, a lot of the movies that, went bad for him, like even Elizabethtown, Tom Cruise could have made them work. And I'd love to see Cruise get back with Cameron Crowe. I
just like to see. Great. I know it sounds so crazy, and we've talked about this before, but I always, when Cruise in the 80s, I was like, man, I wish he would do an action movie. Now it's like, I wish he'd do a drama.
Yeah.
It's at this point, I feel like I'm completely spoiled on Cruise as an action star. And I don't want to say I'm tired of it, because I'm not. Like, you could just fucking film Tom Cruise running at top speed for 2 hours, and I'll watch it. But I'd like to see him. I want to see Born on the 4th of July. Tom Cruise.
Born on the 4th of July. Color of Money. All these great Rain Man. All these.
He's got movies. Cruise has a great dramatic rage, not rage. Like the rage you see in the action movies is great, and I love seeing that transition. But he's got a powerful fucking passion in him that he can ignite.
Oh yeah,
and I want to see that.
Truth. I want the truth. He's so good.
Fuck yeah. Like, Born was like, it's like, you don't know what I did, you fuck. That whole scene where him and Willem Dafoe fight in their wheelchairs.
Oh yeah, spitting at each other.
Yeah, that is a great fucking scene. It's one of his best scenes ever.
The thing that I'll always credit Tom Cruise for was, when I was a kid and I didn't know much about movies, Tom Cruise, I think, probably introduced to me the concept of a movie drama. Because I loved Tom Cruise movies growing up, but they were never, even Top Gun, were never really action movies. They were kind of dramas, right? And, it was Top Gun that led me into becoming a huge Tom Cruise fan. I mean, I was 4 years old when I saw Top Gun, and I can remember it like it was yesterday, the first time watching it, and it was, and I remember waiting for his movies to come out. I mean, I was 6 years old and I was watching Rain Man and loving it, and it's, Born on the 4th of July, all those movies that I saw when I was a kid, Color of Money, the first drama movies that I saw the first movies that I considered serious movies were Tom Cruise dramas, and I wish he'd come back and do that genre again, because he's the greatest, man. He is the greatest, and he's so good, and it's crazy he hasn't won an Academy Award yet. You can make fun of him all you want. People fucking pissing me off that time I met him in New Orleans, and the reps were all kind of joking around about him. He is fucking Tom Cruise, man. He's one of the greatest movie stars that has ever lived. Really. He's fantastic. Can do everything. Fucking Tom Cruise.
Tell me how you really feel about Tom Cruise.
Well, I feel the same way that you do. If you want to know how I feel about Tom Cruise, how do you feel about Tom Cruise?
Yeah, that's right. It's about the same. Yeah. I can't argue.
Cocktail. He made Cocktail. It's a guy juggling spinning bottles for 2 hours, and it's fucking amazing.
I love Cocktail.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing. Yeah.
I love that movie. So good. You shouldn't love that movie, but I do.
No, I do too. Yeah.
I want to get the Cocktail poster and put it next to my tiki bar.
I would, when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I saw Cocktail when it first came out. My parents let me watch R-rated movies, and they let me watch Cocktail because I love Tom, and they knew I'd be upset if I didn't get to see the new Tom Cruise movie. And and it was, I used to have bottles of juice that I would throw around like he was like a flair bartending, practicing it on like the counter and spilling juice everywhere while listening to the Cocktail cassette, the Hippie Shake.
Actually had a pretty good soundtrack.
Hippie Shake. I've got the vinyl album framed on my wall of records right now.
Do you really?
Yeah, right next to Top Gun and my signed copy of Don Johnson Heartbeat.
Heartbeat.
Oh, so good.
All right. So speaking of Tom Cruise, who has starred in many of this, well, not many, but a couple of this director's films, Mr. Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Who has some choice words about Netflix movies winning Oscars.
Yeah, so I guess this is in the wake of, last Sunday's Academy Awards and the fact that, Roma came pretty close to sweeping the Oscars. I mean, it didn't win Best Picture, but it won Best Director, and Best Foreign Film, and Best Cinematography, and Best Editing. And, it was a great showing for Netflix. And Spielberg is not happy about it. He wants to go to the board. Well, he's on the board of governors, and he's going to apparently table a motion that would disqualify Netflix movies from the Academy Awards unless they get a proper theatrical release with the proper theatrical window, which I believe is 90 days. And I just don't think it's going to happen for Netflix. There are a lot of people, all kinds of opinions on this online. And, it comes down to what's considered a movie and what's not considered a movie. And Spielberg thinks that it should be considered TV, and he thinks they should only be eligible for Emmys. But I challenge anybody to watch Roma and not tell me that that's a movie. I mean, it's a movie. It's a feature. And I feel like I could kind of get where he's coming from, because I know he's trying to protect the theatrical experience and he's a purist. But the time to do this, the time to put these rules in that really clearly define what was eligible and what wasn't eligible was years ago, before the floodgates opened. And the floodgates are open now, and it's too late. You can't go back.
Yeah, if you go back now, what are you going to do? You're going to take the Oscar away from Roma?
Yeah, it's already happened, and you've got so many movies coming out, and it's been so embraced, by Scorsese, and so many people are going to fight him on it, and so many people that are in the Academy are working with Netflix now, and he's going to be fought tooth and nail on it, and there's no way that unless Netflix is willing to compromise, which I think they will to a degree. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
What is the compromise?
I wouldn't be surprised if
theatrical window.
Which I don't think that they would go beyond 4 weeks, and I don't think they're going to ever report their grosses, because the reason for that is that if you have a Netflix movie that comes out in theaters
and it bombs, then people
will think it's a bomb and they won't watch it, and that kind of taints the brand. And the thing is, most movies that come out on Netflix, if I know that I'm going to get them for free or from a part of my Netflix subscription in a couple weeks, I will probably wait for them, unless it was something like The Irishman, which I'd love to see on the big screen. I would probably wait to see them on Netflix. And I think that, and I'm a hardcore movie fan who goes to see movies all the time, so I don't think that the movies are going to do particularly well. I think Roma did well because it really kind of appeals to a specific audience, an art house audience. And I'm sure that The Irishman would do okay too, but considering the budget, it would have to be a blockbuster for them to call it a hit, and it just doesn't make any sense that Netflix would put themselves up to this kind of scrutiny. It's really too late. Spielberg, I get what he's saying. Way too late. This time to do this was before War Machine came out, before the first Netflix movie came out. And the floodgates are open. They've changed the definition of what a movie is. And I also think it's unfair to indie distributors, because if Netflix movies are not eligible, then that would mean that any movie that goes day and date on VOD would not be eligible either. And unfortunately, it takes millions of dollars to put a movie out in theaters. So you're telling me that an indie movie with a smaller budget is less of a movie than, something from a major studio that's got this money? And is that all that the Oscars is? It's just a way for studios to reward themselves, to pat each other on the back?
Yeah.
It's really too late. And he's,
I think that I really think, and I have the utmost respect for Spielberg.
Oh, me too.
I think he's just, he is trapped in the old school ways, and I get it. But I mean, I think in this instance, he's kind of like the get off my lawn grumpy old man about this. I get the place that he's coming from, but he is ultimately, he's predicted this. Him and Lucas predicted this years ago, that the movies being released in theaters would be like these big event experience movies, and that the smaller films like The Highwaymen or even The Dirt and whatnot, people aren't going to pay to see these.
No.
I hate to say that, but like in 1985, The Highwaymen would be a huge profile movie, but not now.
Yeah.
Even Triple Frontier, like that's a hell of a cast, but I don't think it would bomb in theaters. I'm telling you. And I think it's a perfect place for Netflix. It's a great venue, and it doesn't diminish that it's a theatrical quality film. It's just that, I think that you actually get more eyeballs on the movie by putting it on Netflix. You have more subscribers that will actually watch it from the comfort of their home. And I have a 75-inch fucking 4K TV. It's not quite theatrical, but it works in a pinch, let me tell you. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse looks fucking amazing on my TV.
It is what it is. You know, the way that we consume pop culture has changed, has really changed.
Yeah.
And I'm all for, you know, some kind of metric being put down as to what's considered a film. You know, and a multi-part TV show isn't a film, but
right.
You know, it's just, you know, it's too late. It's just too late. I can understand. He wants to keep it the way it used to be, the old kind of system going. And it's not going to happen because we have streaming now. And, you know, I think his fear is probably going to come true. I think he's thinking that, you know, theaters aren't going to really exist anymore. And they might not, or they might not in the way that we know.
I think they will, but they're not. It's just not. I don't think the theaters are going to be housing. I don't think the theaters won't exist. I think that it's just going to become just as he said. Like, it's kind of like he's an arbiter of his own doom. Is that, you know, they're going to become, it's like going to the circus, you know, it's like a more expensive experience, but one that has like, you know, you have like reclining seats, you have gourmet food that you can buy, you can drink. And the movies themselves are like long, big budget fucking special effects. Even like, you know, they have these 4DX theaters now. Yeah. I think that is the way that the theatrical experience is going. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I think what will happen though, is you'll have like a lot of these second run theaters will start to pop up for people that are kind of traditionalists that will start to play more and more either old films or some of like, you know, smaller films in their theaters, but it won't be at like the big, you know, crazy theaters. It'll be a totally different experience in itself. You know, and even like Alamo Drafthouse now, if you go to those theaters, which I love, they will play old movies all the time. You know, they'll have a night where you can go and just like watch an old movie, and they do really well. And they have like these themes.
We have that in Montreal too, and they always do well because a lot of people do like the theatrical experience. You know,
and I think that's what it will become. I think that experience will become another experience in itself. You know?
But you know, it's. I mean, the thing is, I think the way I see it going is that, you know, Warner Media is starting a streaming site, Disney's starting a streaming site. I do think more and more studios are going to start doing that, and they're going to start making content specifically for those sites. You know, Disney's already got a bunch of mid-level movies that are going to go on streaming, you know, and I would assume that Warner Media is probably going to do the same thing for them, you know, and it is, you know, it's just I do think that's going to become a thing, you know, and it's just the way that that kind of, you know, the art that the industry is going. And, you know, I don't think Spielberg, as much as, you know, as great as he is and as legendary as he is, I don't think he's enough to stop it. It's just not going to happen.
He's not going to stop it on his own. There's, as powerful as Spielberg may be, he can't stop this one. Yeah. This is something, you know, this is a huge investment. This goes beyond him. This goes, you know, this is industry wide kind of thing that people are embracing. And he seems to be the outlier that's not. And there's just nothing he can do about it. He can address it at the Academy, and he can, you know, throw a fit over who's getting a golden trophy, but it ain't going to slow down the model. And maybe he doesn't care if that's the model so much. And if this is just over awards, that's kind of petty in my opinion. Like, who gives a fuck? Nobody cares. I mean, that's like his fight. Like, okay, fine, go fight over your trophies.
I don't think it's about the awards, though.
I don't either. I think it's more. I think he's trying to quote unquote protect the theatrical experience, but what he's just not understanding how it's evolved, or he's just not accepting how it's evolved, and tough titty. Like, sorry, I love you, Spielberg. I'm gonna keep watching your movies till the day I die, but there's not much you can do about this one. This is technology. This is just the way things are going, and you predicted it. So there it is. Boom. I've said the final word. That's it.
Well, so, any questions this week?
Let me see if we have any questions. I don't want to spend too much time on them. I think we've covered quite a bit. Let's see what we got. Somebody was excited. Coach Finstock was very excited for us to talk about the Spielberg thing. You're welcome. Let's see. Alfred, are you guys down for a live action Miles after seeing Spider-Man? Fuck yeah. Yeah, I'd love to see a live action Miles. Yeah, Miles Morales. Fuck.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's I'll tell you what I love about Into the Spider-Verse is that I relate to the Peter Parker character because my age range is the one I grew up with, and my son relates to Miles Morales. And it's a great experience because, and I love Miles too, don't get me wrong, but like in terms of relatability, that's where I fall in my life and in my experience. So it's very relatable there. But like my son is like the scene where Miles's dad is actually driving him to school, and he's the cop, and he's like kind of bitching about all this different stuff, like coffee shops popping up, and Miles is just listening to his headphones. He's like, "Oh, Dad," he's like, "You're so old." like that's me. Like I'm the cop, and that's my kid. So it's,
I feel though that at this point, any Miles Morales movies is going to pale to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I mean, I feel like that Spider-Man Far From Home is really going to pale next. I think it's doomed. I think it's doomed to the point that like everybody now in every review of that movie is going to be like, well, it's good, but I mean, it's no Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Everybody's going to say that. Like it's inevitable.
I agree. I probably will too.
The bar has been set so high by that movie, which was so much better than anybody thought it was going to be. And what a last laugh for Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, right? For Miller, right?
Yeah, fuck. Yeah.
It is, good for them though. Fuck, they really nailed it. And I never thought that movie was going to be any good, and they nailed it.
I thought it would be good, but I didn't think it would be that good. I thought it'd be entertaining. But
credit where credit is. They fucking nailed
it. The animation, the directors, like everybody did. Everybody was in top form. The voice talent, everything. It really is a great fucking movie.
Yeah.
Ulysses wants to know what movie is going to be the most surprised and most disappointed. I want to say that's impossible to predict, really, because like a surprise is a surprise. So you can't predict a surprise. Disappointment. I mean, again, we can't know that until we see it. So, I mean, potentially anything could be disappointing. Avengers Endgame could be disappointing. I know that sounds like blasphemy, but like if Captain Marvel comes in and like saves the whole day and cleans up the house, it's like, well, that was a fucking waste of 10 years. Built up all these characters, and then you just bring in this one person in one movie and they like save the day. I don't think that's going to happen, but fuck, if it did, that's going to be a big fucking raspberry fart noise out of my mouth for that.
It's tough to kind of predict that thing. Like if I'm thinking about some of my favorite surprises of this year, they really were surprises. Like I didn't realize that, Destroyer is one of my favorite movies of the year. And it wasn't a movie that I ever really saw coming, and that was one that just kind of came out and it was like, whoa, wait a second. This is amazing. So we'll see. There are a lot of movies that are potentially great. I'm curious as to what, I'll see at TIFF this year. I mean, you never know. It's a big question mark. Who knows?
Yeah.
And disappointing. I hope that that there's a lot of movies could be disappointing. I hope they're not, but we'll see. Though inevitably something will be disappointing. But
we'll
see.
Let's see. Coach Finstock has another one. This is a good question, actually. It's pretty fun. You have a chance to go back in time and make this movie wish come true. Which do you pick? Tim Burton's Superman or a third Batman film with Michael Keaton?
Third Batman with Michael Keaton. Absolutely.
See, I would pick Superman.
Really? With Nicolas Cage?
Fuck yeah, man. That movie looks so fucking insane. I need to see it. Like, I think a third Burton Batman would be good for sure. It would be entertaining. But man, to see that, I mean, I don't know if you watch
oh sure, yeah.
The Death of Superman.
Yeah, I was actually really sorry to hear that John Schnepp died, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it was really sad. Schnepp was a good guy, and I commend him. He left a nice legacy with that film. I'm really glad that he made it and deep dove into it because it is a fascinating movie. That one of the best movies never made. I would just love to have seen that come to life. I'm sure it would be like just batshit fucking Tim Burton insane, and with Cage as Superman, like this would have been amazing.
With his long hair, and I mean, just seeing him like the Clark Kent stuff where he's kind of, playing it nerdy. It's wow, it would have been a performance. But I don't know though. I mean, I'd still love to see Michael Keaton play Batman again.
Well, I think if we ever decided to revisit an old Batman for whatever feature, whether it be Batman Beyond or another fucking Dark Knight Returns take. Get Keaton. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Why not? So Carlos DM wants to know, why is the Captain Marvel review embargo so late compared to other MCU films? I think it's twofold, and this is what I think, not what I know. I think one, there are a few spoilers, like end scenes that they don't necessarily want out there yet, even though I know what they are, and they're they're hardly that spoilerific. They're pretty obvious, really. And then the other thing too, I think, is the online backlash. Is they don't want stuff out there. Not so much that they fear bad reviews, but the reception. Yeah. So why not save that to the last minute? So that's what I think, not what I know.
I mean, like it or not, it is kind of a loaded film at this point, you know, and the reactions are probably going to be all over the place. So I'm sure if they could, they would just open it sight unseen and let people decide for themselves. But you know, it's still a week before it opens, though, which is hardly like last minute. I've seen movies where it was, you know, the day before opening day. I mean, I remember Mad Max Fury Road was the week it opened. Was like the Monday before it opened or something that people were finally allowed to talk about it, and you know, and it was universally acclaimed. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it won't be any good, but you know, we'll see.
Last question we have from Foothill Rogers, Batfleck. You gotta take Batfleck out of your name, bud. Batfleck's over.
Yeah, it's over. It was fun while it lasted.
It was fun. He left his legacy. Time for the next one. Pick one. Go to space or dive into the bottom of Mariana Trench. I would go to space. I have no desire to dive deep into the fucking ocean.
Yeah, me too.
I'd rather die. I'd rather die in space.
Me too. I'd rather die in space too.
I'd rather float amongst the stars and my body turn cold and die than fucking drown in a fucking dark, wet nightmare. What's my favorite stupid monster movie? Deep Rising, without question.
Oh boy, I did best movie you never saw in Deep Rising. Stupid monster movie. You know, it's funny.
He says his is Shark Attack 3. I mean, that's pretty like low B grade. That's like D grade.
I mean, I remember, I haven't seen it since it came out, but I remember really liking Lake Placid when I saw it.
Oh yeah, I saw Lake Placid.
Thinking it was hilarious. But I'm trying.
Was that like Bridget Fonda's last movie?
Yeah, I love Bridget Fonda. Stupid monster movies, though. It's funny. Let me just take a minute to think about that. Stupid monster movies. Google stupid monster movies. See what comes up. I mean, I'm not a fan of those mockbusters or any of those Asylum type things or those Sharknado type movies. I really don't like them. I think they're garbage. But stupid monster films. You know, I mean, I really liked all the later day Child's Play movies, like you know, Seed of Chucky, I thought was hilarious, and Bride of Chucky, I thought was just great. You know, I like it when they're campy like that. It's just tons of fun.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know, stupid monster movies. I don't know. Deep Rising is a great one.
I love it. It's too much fun.
Treat Williams.
And you know, they could always go back and make another one. Those guys are still kicking around. They could play because they get stranded on that island. You could make another Deep Rising easily.
That is never going to happen, Paul.
Fuck you, of course not. But it could.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be.
You know, it's weird though. RoboCop. So we did get Peter Weller. He did return as RoboCop. But wow, and what a fashion!
Fried chicken. Yeah. But he just did the voice, though. I think
Colonel RoboCop.
It wasn't him in.
Yeah.
That's the most random shit I've ever seen. Yeah. What the fuck? That is some WTF news and then some. I think that's it for this week, man. We hit our right at our time frame, so you guys get your 2 hours of Beard and the Bald for next week. Hopefully the Friday debut has been working out. I know that a lot of news comes out during the week, so
yeah.
You know, but if it ends up becoming, I mean, I could turn this around pretty quickly, but you know, it just seems to be working on Friday right now. But we'll see if I need to change it. Maybe we'll change it going forward. But yeah, so far it seems to be okay. But that's it. Chris, do you have anything else you want to talk about before we go?
No, I mean, next week we'll be able to talk about Captain Marvel. Well, at least I will have seen it at that point.
We'll talk about both Captain Marvels. We'll talk about Captain Marvel and Shazam.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, and then we may have a special guest for next week if we can.
Hope so. If we do, it'll be a lot of fun.
Yep. I will not be a part of that because I will be traveling, but Chris will talk to this said person and then we'll put it on the podcast.
Yeah, it'd be super fun.
Should be cool. We can make one. We'll obviously try and do that more. Try and have more guests this year as well, if we can. But if it's just me and Chris, that's totally fine because this is the Beard and the Bald podcast.
Indeed.
That's it for us this week. Thank you guys for joining us. Please follow us on Instagram. We're really trying to grow that over there, and we're trying to post more and more. Chris posted a picture of his cat yesterday, so that's the kind of delightful things you can come to expect. We also do giveaways, prizes. We just had somebody win a 4K copy of Hunter Killer, and I have more stuff coming that I'm going to get to. I got more stuff. I got X-Men 4K trilogy. I got the Maze Runner trilogy 4K. I got a bunch of stuff. I get a bunch of shit, and I don't need it. I'd rather give it to you guys. So there's gonna be lots more giveaways through the Instagram. So please come follow us there. The more you guys interact, the more we'll interact, and we're trying to just build it up. And then also please go to iTunes and give us a rating. Give us a review, please. If you listen to us regularly, we would love to have your thoughts put up there if you're enjoying the show. So, and we thank you, truly thank you for joining us and listening to us ramble about movies. And we hope you gain some perspective, get some laughs, and have fun. That's really why we do it. So.
And the takeaway for all of you, there is no Snyder Cut.
There is a Snyder Cut. There's just not a cut that's being released.
You'll never see it.
Probably not. In like 20 years, maybe. When Warner Brothers was like, hey, we got that one thing. What can we do with it? How can we make some money? I think that's what will happen.
Nice talking to you, Paul.
As always, you have a wonderful week, and you listeners have a wonderful week as well.